As Canberra continues to plan and plot around a carbon price, the future consumption of all our energy commodities was the focus of the World Energy Outlook in Perth this week. And one man who's been at the front of new business at multinational company Shell is Jeremy Bentham, Vice President, Global Business Environment. And he joined me a short time ago. Jeremy Bentham, welcome to the programme.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's talk about the future. 10 years from now, what do you see fueling the world, given all these issues of an increasing population and an increasing demand per person for fuel?
Well, first of all, I think you bring up key points, which are the growth in not only population but also prosperity, and particularly population and prosperity in this region as being major drivers in the future energy outlook. And you see a whole range of developments. Probably the most exciting development over the last few years has been the explosion in the use of gas, and particularly unconventional gas and shale gas in North America, the development of coal seam methane here in Australia, have a big impact on resolving at least part of the supply-demand tensions looking forward, but also being able to play into the area of reducing the carbon footprint of some of the fuel use looking forward.
There's been a lot of politics, particularly over coal seam gas and gas lands. Do you see that resolving itself?
Well, I think that it's inevitable that these debates take place. And I think it's a very positive development that you have these debates and that the industry needs to be able to prove itself through operations and through track record in these areas, which I believe it can do.
People talk about phasing out coal. How realistic is that in the medium term? And if so, well, when will it happen?
I think coal remains an important part of the energy mix going forward, along with gas and along with oil, and also the increasing growth in other areas as well. More than 40% of all global energy developments in the last decade were actually coal, and so coal does feature. And increasingly, of course, there's the emphasis on clean coal technologies, clean coal development.
Well, let's turn to oil. Yesterday, I noticed Shell pulling out of a massive Kashagan oil project in Kazakhstan. That can't have been an easy decision for the multinational. How will that affect world oil supplies going forward, particularly for countries like China?
Well, I think that indeed oil does remain an important part of the energy mix going forwards. And one particular project, one way or the other, is decided upon on its merits, which have a whole set of factors.
It's a very big project.
It is a very big project, and indeed the need for oil to support economic development remains, and you have different factors within this. The opening up of possibilities in Brazil has been a positive development. The opening up of the industry in Iraq has been another positive development. And clearly the uncertainties around North Africa have added question marks into the development. It's actually all part of what we call the era of volatile transitions looking ahead.
I imagine the clean energy industry here in Australia will be happy today after hearing about Ross Garnaut's climate review. He's now saying that 10% of the revenues raised from a carbon price of, I think, $20 to $30 a tonne will actually go towards clean energy and just 35% to business. Do you think that's a good start, a good balance?
Well, I think that it's important to have the debate and to move forward, and this is part of moving forward in an Australian setting, which also is influential in a global setting as well. There is an advantage to moving towards market-based mechanisms that enable a carbon price to be established that shapes the direction of investment into the most effective and efficient ways.
So an ETS rather than a carbon tax. I notice, David Cameron in Britain has just put a carbon tax over and above the existing ETS system, which Shell, I know, is not pleased with. But are you concerned that you may find in different countries, as they try to meet their aggressive targets, that they impose a carbon tax over and above an ETS?
Well, I think the notion of a patchwork of developments is one that we recognise. What we would tend to want to also underline is the value of a transparent pricing mechanism over time, and also that any other mechanisms that develop at least mimic the impact of that in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness of incentivising investment.
Very carefully worded. Jeremy Bentham, thank you very much for joining Lateline Business.
Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Tiki. Goodbye.